Eat the rich!
I too hate capitalism, Hop Pop. With last week's Amphibia episodes being the most lighthearted set of episodes this season has offered so far, focusing almost exclusively on Sprig and other planner family development, it's only fitting that we get two insane episodes in a row from this week's set. Both Fight at the Museum and Temple Frogs not only revealed new information related to the Calamity Box that not only us viewers had no idea about, but the main Amphibia gang didn't know about either. But this new information has personally left me with more questions rather than answers. Per usual with these types of videos, I'm going to be breaking down these episodes, pointing out details or Easter eggs y'all might have missed in your first watch through, as well as discuss what might happen in future episodes thanks to the new information revealed. Starting with the first episode, Fight at the Museum, opening up with everyone in the house fast asleep before sunrise. Well, except for Anne, who's pulled 2 all-nighters in a row trying to find the ways to get the planners back to Amphibia. She goes on several different websites like Woohoo Queries, which is a parody of Yahoo Answers, using the username Bananer881, but gets radio silence. So she tries her hand at the big old wiki, which is her Earth's version of Wikipedia, to research the concept of the multiverse. What's funny about this is the text used on this webpage is word for word what the multiverse Wikipedia has, at least for the definition of the multiverse in the table of contents. Her last-ditch effort is going to Tube, spelled T-O-O-B, which is their world's version of YouTube, only to open a video by a tuber named Amy-chan and their ultimate guide to rating realistic isekai fanfic. I cannot believe I just said that sentence out loud. Clearly Amy knows what they're talking about if this video was able to get over 900k views. Looks like Anne's not subscribed though. Well, what are you waiting for, Anne? Perhaps Anne hasn't accepted Amy's apology for whatever controversy they got into in the past. The last thing that caught my eye on this page was the top 10 anime openings thumbnail on the right. The only character I'm able to 100% identify is the blonde man with the blindfold, who's without a doubt supposed to be Satoru Gojo from Jujutsu Kaisen. If that thumbnail entails Kai Kitan in top 10 anime openings of all time, I 1000% agree. It's so good. Man, I love JJK so much. The rest of the characters I'm unsure of. Of course, feel free to leave any suggestions in the comments about what anime characters they could be a reference to, because I'm honestly not sure. Before Anne gets to finish her research, her mother calls her down for breakfast, where she finds the planners watching a soap opera called Primthistle Manor. They're so captivated by the show that they ignore Anne's idea about finding a potential second Calamity Box at a thrift store. So Mrs. Boonchoy suggests if Anne is so hell-bent on more research, she ought to go to the museum and read a report, especially since she's missed about half of her 7th grade year. I love how even the person who wrote the math textbook wasn't even getting enjoyment out of it. Remember everyone, math equals cringe. Meanwhile, in the city outskirts, Lanky Frobo has repaired itself but is having trouble locating Anne, so he decides to tap into a radio frequency tower to increase the chances. The gang arrives at the museum and starts browsing exhibits. The planners are understandably intrigued while Anne is still super tired.
Wait, your people think the world is round?
These subtle flat earth jokes in cartoons never get old. First Jacob Hopkins from the Owl House and now Hop Hop, who's gonna be the next Disney character to join the Flat Earth Society. Hop Hop continues to worry about Anne's mental health when he sees her still doing side research on her laptop, and for good reason at that. The amount of stress she's been dealing with has not dwindled at all since she got back to Earth. But Anne notices an artifact in the distance with an image containing the Calamity Box. It shows a frog floating in midair with the box and the portal it came from behind it. There's also Vikings on a ship looking at the frog in awe. Assuming Amphibia takes place in the same year as it is in real life, this means the artifact was constructed around the 11th century, since Vikings were incredibly prominent during that era. And if that frog looks familiar, it's because it's more than likely the same pink frog Andreas was friends with in the distant past. The same frog that stole the Calamity Box from Newtopia and may very well be an ancestor to the Planter family. I'm still not on board with this frog being Spring and Polly's mom, more so now than ever if the frog depicted in this artifact is actually the same one from Andreas' past. And feeling some relief thinking this is the big answer she's needed, is suddenly startled by a new major supporting character, Dr. Jan, a curator from the museum and a lovable dork to boot. And she's voiced by Annika Noni Rose, who voiced Tiana in Princess of the Frog. She was teased as a guest star way back before even season 3 started, and this is the character she's gonna be voicing. She starts to rant about how she thinks the frog depicted in the pot is meant to be some kind of ancient deity, but if she's really a planner, I don't think that's necessarily the case. She asks Anne and the planners if they have any other questions, but before Sprig can finish asking about if she knows anything related to otherworldly portals, Anne shuts him up and gets Dr. Jan to back off by saying she thinks museums are boring. You gotta respect Jan for still keeping a positive attitude after Anne crapped on her whole career. I know she was acting, but Jan didn't know that. But she respectfully offers assistance if Anne changes her mind. Anne is still super on edge with trusting anyone outside of the Planter family with her baggage, out of fear of not only putting whoever knows about the Calamity Box in danger, but putting the planners in danger too. She knows the general public is not yet ready to be exposed to bipedal talking frogs. Even one slip-up about the planner's identity or Amphibia's existence to the wrong person could spell disaster. So instead of getting help from Dr. Jan, Anne plans to rob the museum of the plot. Her sense of reality has warped so much because of Amphibia, and it's honestly hilarious. She's 13 years old, trying to rob a heavily guarded museum. At night. Step 1 is for Hop Pop to distract the guards, which he does by dressing up as a cat and stealing one of the guards' shoes. These people have got to be the worst museum security I've ever seen in my life, by the way. There's someone called Larry Daly from Night at the Museum. He'll get the job done. Once Polly gets them inside, Sprig destroys the security cameras. Unfortunately for him, the lanky Frobo was able to identify Sprig before the last one fully broke, thanks to tapping into radio frequency. So he's now on his way to the museum to destroy Anne. Anne is still borderline passing out from exhaustion, but is still trying her best to hold it together, which worries the family. When they reach the room with the pot, they notice it's completely surrounded by security lasers. Luckily, Polly is short enough to get by them. She proceeds to carve the case open like a cookie cutter shark and retrieves the pot. But before Polly can bring it back, lanky Frobo crash lands from the glass ceiling and sets off the security alarms. Since Anne wants to refrain from using her calamity powers, she's forced to fight on the defensive and think of ways her surroundings can help her. First by using a model guillotine to chop its arm off. So now we know what specifically caused him to lose his arm and have it replaced with a bulldozer excavator in the future. However, that wasn't enough to fully stop it. So Anne stalls it using a museum sword, waiting for the planners to break a ceiling dinosaur exhibit to drop on its head. But even the heavy weight of dinosaur bones could not crush this thing. We could already kind of tell, but this fight really shows how this robot is just leagues above the other Frobo our characters have dealt with, in terms of both durability and intelligence. Thankfully, Dr. Jan and the security guards return to the museum, forcing the robot to retreat, since he's not supposed to be seen by other civilians. But because the planners had their disguisers off at the end of this fight, Dr. Jan figured out who they were and got super excited, and did something Anne didn't think anybody would do. She kept the planners' identities safe from the security guards by telling them the gang were performers reciting a historical reenactment. Dr. Jan takes everyone back to her office, noticing Anne's lack of sleep, so she tells a story about how she would act in a similar manner when she was younger digging for dinosaur bones, and accidentally blew up a full set of Triceratops bones because of how exhausted she was. And this helps Anne realize she's doing more harm than good by pulling all these all-nighters and bearing all this stress herself, which makes the addition of a character like Dr. Jan just so awesome. Anne finally has someone she can trust besides her parents and the planners, and it's someone who has legitimate qualifications to help the planners get home. So she makes a deal with Anne that she'll do research on the pot only if Anne gets some proper rest, to which she agrees. Cut to the next morning of Dr. Jan still doing research in her office, not making much progress, so she decides to use a blacklight on the pot to see if there are any secret messages, which there is. I'm sure us Gravity Falls fans got really excited when she used a blacklight of all things to find a secret message on an ancient artifact. And I'll get into what the message actually means later in this video. Of course, if you know the Newtopian alphabet by heart, feel free to translate it for yourself. The next episode, Temple Frogs, opens at the Boonchoi house, presumably the same morning Dr. Jan found the hidden message. Anne runs downstairs, super excited to inform the planners about Dr. Jan finding something. I didn't know autocorrect could affect human speech too. As the gang giddily runs out of the house ready to go to the museum, Mrs. Boonchoi stops them. It's market day at the Thai temple and she wants Anne to be there. The Thai community hasn't seen her since she's returned after all. Anne insists how important going to the museum is, so her mother agrees to having her stay for only an hour rather than the whole day. But watch that in the distance. Stalker bloggers from St. James Middle School, who else? Apparently they've been trying to get an exclusive photo of the quote-unquote girl who went missing, so I guess not everyone at St. James is buying Anne's story about going to an Alaskan farm for 5 months. That's semi-concerning, not gonna lie. Cut to everyone arriving at the Thai temple, and the planners are very intrigued by the decor, saying the statues remind them of Wartwood. After just a short time being there, Anne is ambushed by other Thai community members, thrilled to see her. She greets them doing a Y, which she explains to Polly is how you show respect to your elders in Thai culture. Episodes like this are so cool because I get to learn more about a culture I had extremely little knowledge of, along with the Planter family. Like, we're both learning at the same time, together. And seeing them get even more into it than me is really cool. Like, they're experiencing it hands-on. Now the planners are off doing their own thing at the temple. Polly stumbles upon a Thai language school and joins the class speaking fluent Thai. Apparently all it took for her to be fluent was to watch all of Mrs. Boonchoi's Thai rom-coms. I wish learning a new language was that easy in real life. I really do. Hop Hop finds a room of adults con dancing, which is a performance where dancers tell a beautiful drama of epic scale through intricate movements and expressive gestures. Something Hop Hop is already a natural at. So he shows off some of his moves, which the community members praise him for. As for Sprig, he stumbles upon some fellas playing what I believe is called sepak takraw, or kick volleyball, I guess. It was never mentioned by name in the episode, but it looks really fun. And since Sprig has so much natural athletic ability with his jumps and kicks, everyone wants him to be on their team. Back at Anne's post, she sees her mom mingling with other community members while returning food supplies they lent her. Anne assumes it's almost time for her to leave by now, but to her shock, it's only been 10 minutes since she got there. Growing more impatient than ever, she calls Dr. Jan to let her know she's at the Thai temple, but they'll meet up shortly. Though unknown to Anne, our lanky friend was listening to the conversation the whole time. But since he's still damaged from the last encounter, he sends sends dragonfly drones to take care of it. The way he did this was just like how the giant Frobo from Turning Point did it. Only the drones from the big guy were a lot bigger by default and weren't modeled after dragonflies. Anne tries to get the planners to join her escape, but sees how much fun each of them are having at their respective activities, thinking it'd be better to just leave them be and enjoy their time. As Anne makes her final break for it, she bumps into her mom, who figures out what she's doing instantly. Classic mother's intuition never fails. Even though she was caught, Anne doubles down on trying to leave, but learns from her mother that the Thai community members are what kept them going during the 5 months Anne was gone, so she owes it to them to stay there. You know, they cooked meals and took care of them that entire time, even helping out at the restaurant. It's reassuring to know the Boon Choi parents weren't just wallowing by themselves for 5 months feeling like a broken family, and had tons of support from outlying community members. We need more communities like this in real life. The dragonflies have arrived and don't even care that they're being seen by the people attending the Thai temple at this point. I guess they're because they're scouts, I mean, or maybe Lanky Frobo just doesn't give a fuck anymore after being spotted in the museum, I don't know. Anne tries to play them off as being sent by the gossip blog kids from school that were shown earlier in the episode. Even though Anne wants to handle it alone, the community members want to help. Even if just one person in the community is danger, that means everyone else is too. They got each other's backs. Seeing these guys fight the robots seems to further push the idea of Anne, Marcy, and Sasha not being completely alone in the final on-hands fight of the series. Not only will the Wartwood citizens likely be helping, but members of the Thai community as well as other allies Anne will make in later episodes will probably be helping in the actual fight. It's just more weight being lifted from her shoulders each passing episode. And this battle against the dragonflies served as a nice parallel to Sasha, Grime, and everyone in Wartwood fighting the giant Frobo and its drones in Turning Point. The fight ends with the planners' disguises being compromised again. I cannot believe this is a real frame in the show of Amphibia. Is this supposed to mean this is how the planners would look in real life if we actually had bipedal talking frogs? I'm never gonna recover from this imagery. I'm just not. To much Anne's surprise, the rest of the community accepts the planners for who they are instantly because they know how much they mean to Anne. So not only is more stress being lifted from Anne's shoulders at a gradual pace, the planners are being accepted by the rest of human society at a gradual pace too. While everyone is cleaning up the mess from the fight, Dr. Jan arrives at the temple being too eager to share her findings. She shows the blacklight message, which Anne was able to translate thanks to Marcy's notes about Newtopian language. Even while in a rejuvenation tank about to be possessed, Marcy still comes through. The message states, "Seek the Mother of Ohms, she'll guide you to your destiny." This is what I meant about having more questions than answers. Did the planner ancestor engrave that message onto the pot in hopes of future Calamity stone-binded people to find it? Or was that just already there? What does the Mother of Ohms mean? And for those who don't know what an Ohm is, it's a type of aquatic cave-dwelling salamander. Those giant Siamese twins from the episode Quarrelers Pass were an Ohm. Would it really be their mother, or is it just like a deity type mother of Ohms and not their actual mother? My brain hurts, but I love it so much. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like down below. It helps out a ton. But for now, I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Take care. Bye-bye.